have it.
Masks off. Gloves on.
No shame. No shame. Disgusting. You're a virus.
Pockets of protesters demanding their states reopen as frontline workers in scrubs and masks stand firm.
It is like we're this masked, scrubbed army entering for one united purpose.
Growing anger about how to tackle this crisis as cases continue to surge in new hotspots like Boston. The World Health Organization warns the worst may be yet to come. As we learn, the virus doesn't just attack the lungs. Meanwhile, President Trump is going after governors upset about the lack of tests.
Testing is a local thing.
As a South Korean firm plans to ship hundreds of thousands of kits to aid in the shortage. We're also watching the unprecedented tumble. With our streets and skies virtually empty, there's such an abundance of oil, producers are now willing to pay people to take it off their hands. And with some of the largest meat processing plants in the U.S. shut down, could it become harder to keep shelves stocked? The economy continues its freefall as lawmakers negotiate a new relief bill. But will it be enough? Hello from the other side, a hopeful glimpse of what life might look like here post-coronavirus.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Lindsay Davis. Thanks so much for streaming with us. America is no stranger to times of crisis, but in the past, our darkest days have brought us together. It is, of course, part of the sentiment behind the slogan, united we stand, divided we fall. But what we're seeing right now is division, lines being drawn in the sand, protesters versus frontline workers, the president and governors now trading jabs, some governors and mayors having a hard time seeing eye to eye. Turmoil is now another tentacle of this deadly disease. But as usual, we look for the silver linings here, and here in New York, the hardest hit state, deaths and ICU admissions are down. But in Boston, the streets were empty today. The annual Boston Marathon shut down for the first time in more than a century. Coronavirus cases there continue to surge as they are in other parts of the country. More on that in just a moment. But Whit Johnson starts us off tonight with the battle playing out across the country on how to reopen and if it's safe to do so.
Tonight, these stark images from Denver illustrating the difficult decisions facing leaders at all levels of government, how to balance the pressure to reopen with the need to protect public safety. In the New York epicenter, where the pandemic has inflicted weeks of pain and heartbreak, tonight signs the state has turned a corner. Look at the curve over the last month, the number of people admitted to the hospital trending downward. Governor Cuomo urging caution.
The question is now, how long is the descent and how steep is the descent? And nobody knows.
One doctor seeing that decline firsthand. When we first met Dr. Matthew Bai almost a month ago, he described Mount Sinai, Queens as a hospital under siege.
You can see all the rooms are filled. Usually these halls are very neat and empty. And now you can see there's patients everywhere.
These days, a different picture.
No patients in this hall at all. It is a beautiful sight to see.
Still, across the country, more proof of the devastating toll. In Michigan, 5-year-old Skylar Herbert becoming the state's first child to die of coronavirus. Skylar's parents, both veteran first responders. Her father, a Detroit firefighter. Her mother, a police officer.
They've been on the front line and they've served with honor and integrity, and they did not deserve to lose their child to this virus.
Also tonight, stories of hope. In New Jersey, 25-year-old Jack Allard, who was admitted to the hospital 5 weeks ago and placed on a ventilator, now recovered, walking out of the hospital on his own. In Louisiana, a patient discharged in true New Orleans fashion. The country is eager to roar back to life, but places like New York City stuck in a standstill. The Hudson River, usually crisscrossed by boats, now eerily empty. The mayor today canceling all parades through June, including iconic celebrations like the Puerto Rican Day Parade and the Pride March. Tonight, growing consensus that the key to reopening the country is ramped up testing.
This is one of the new walk-in testing sites that just opened up in Harlem. A line already stretches down the block. The city is increasing its focus on minority communities devastated by the pandemic and vulnerable residents over the age of 65.
New York, like many states, struggling to meet demand. In Massachusetts, healthcare workers in full gear administering tests. In Kansas, a long line of cars. In Tennessee, the same story. Nationwide, the demand outweighing the supply. Governors pleading for help.
Now they want to have us, the federal government, do the testing. And again, testing is local.
Governor Cuomo responding that New York labs are ready to do the tests. They just need the president's help getting the supplies.
The big question on the testing is that national manufacturers' supply chain and getting that up to scale quickly.
The Republican governor of Maryland compelled to buy 500,000 test kits from South Korea.
We provided each governor with a list of the names, addresses, and phone numbers of the labs where they can find additional testing capacity within their states. The governor from Maryland didn't really understand the list. He didn't understand too much about what was going on.
Tonight, parts of the country slowly reopening, people flocking to some Florida beaches. In Georgia, the governor declaring gyms, barbershops, bowling alleys can reopen on Friday. Some restaurants and theaters, too, with social distancing. Day after day, we're seeing back-to-work protests breaking out, some larger than others, many echoing the words of the president who has egged them on, even as they violate the administration's own social distancing guidelines.
These are great people.
But Dr. Fauci warning that the protests, all those people rallying together, could backfire.
What you do if you jump the gun and go into a situation where you have a big spike, you're going to set yourself back.
And Whit Johnson joins us now. Whit, we just saw that press conference where the president called out the governor of Maryland, saying he doesn't understand the testing situation in his own state.
Lindsay, the Republican governor of Maryland, Larry Hogan, says that he was already in contact with all of those labs on the list that the White House provided, but was told most are federally owned and that he did not have access. They were off limits, he says. The White House claims that will change soon. Meantime, Governor Cuomo in New York says it's not the labs, it's the materials in short supply to carry out the testing. He'll have the opportunity to voice his concerns face-to-face with the president tomorrow when they meet at the White House. Lindsay?
Whit Johnson reporting in for us tonight in New York. Thanks, Whit. As protesters push to reopen states' economies, one governor is taking steps to do just that. Georgia Governor Brian Kemp announced today that some businesses will reopen as early as this Friday. Take a listen to what he had to say at a press conference earlier today.
Today, we are announcing plans to incrementally and safely reopen sectors of our economy. Given the favorable data, enhanced testing, and approval of our healthcare professionals, we will allow gyms, fitness centers, bowling alleys, body art studios, barbers, cosmetologists, hair designers, nail care artists, estheticians, their respective schools, and massage therapists to reopen their doors this Friday, April the 24th.
And as that announcement was made, there are still 19,000 coronavirus cases across that state. Keisha Lance Bottoms, mayor of Atlanta, Georgia, joins us now for more on what she plans to do as the leader of the state's most populous city in response to the governor. Mayor, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Lindsay.
It took a considerable amount of time for Governor Kemp to issue a stay-at-home order for Georgia. Of course, you had issued the same guidelines for the city of Atlanta weeks before he took action. So do you now plan to keep Atlanta locked down despite the governor's order for some businesses to open as early as this week?
Well, Lindsay, that's what we're having our attorneys look at now. It appears that the governor's order supersedes anything that I can do as mayor, but I certainly still have my voice that I can use. And what I will continue to ask Atlantans is to please stay at home. I have a great deal of respect and regard for the governor. We work very well together. I'm not sure what data the governor is referencing in helping him make this decision. I've not spoken with him. I talked with the mayor of the second most populated city in Georgia, Mayor Davis in Augusta. He's not spoken with him. So we don't know what the governor is looking at, but what I do know is that we had nearly 19,000 people who tested positive as of this evening. We also have had an increase of 13.8% in deaths as of this evening. So the best description I received was from Dr. Carlos Del Rio, one of the infectious disease experts at Emory University. He said it's like climbing Mount Everest. And just because you make it to the top doesn't mean that you can't die on your way down. And there also may be other peaks that we may have in this state. So I am extremely concerned about the announcement the governor made. I hope that he's right and I'm wrong, because if he's wrong, then more people will die.
Well, you all have access to the same numbers, the same statistics. Why wouldn't you be on the same page? And did he give you a heads up? You all have not had any communication in advance of him making today's announcement?
Well, again, the governor and I communicate regularly, and so he did not communicate with me on this, and that, of course, was his prerogative as he is the governor of this state, but we did not communicate. It's very clear that our thoughts on where we are with deaths and the people who are testing positive and our testing capabilities are not aligned. I would say, to the extent that we've had any good news in Atlanta, it's because we were very aggressive in this city. With a metropolitan area of nearly 6 million people, we've had less than half the cases in the state with more than half of the population. But that's because we've been aggressive. One of the biggest hot spots we are seeing in the state, I understand, is in Bibb County, near Macon, Georgia, where they didn't shut anything down. And so, again, I hope that the governor is right about this, but I am certainly concerned.
I just want to circle back one last time on this. Just last week, you said, I think the biggest mistake that we can make is to be so eager to get things back to normal that we put people's lives in jeopardy. Are you concerned that the governor's plan to allow the shelter-in-place order in Georgia to expire in just 10 days might do just that and put people's lives in jeopardy?
Lindsay, we have to live to fight another day. And I understand it is extremely concerning when people don't know how they will eat and how they will pay their bills. But these are concerns that you have when you are amongst the living. And if we don't continue to distance ourselves, if we don't heed what we've seen happen in other cities, our population will be at risk. Our biggest outbreak in the state came from 2 funerals, by and large, in Albany, Georgia. And so for us to go back to opening up houses of worship just seems a bit premature to me.
Atlanta, of course, has a large African-American population with underlying conditions. You've said some of the highest asthma rates in the country as well. We know that you've created an advisory council to reopen Atlanta. What's your timeline for reopening, and what's the criteria for doing so?
Well, this is why I created an advisory council. I think that it's something that we need input from a cross-sector people, from people who do business in the city, but also from our health experts. And so I don't have a timeline. My timeline will be based upon what the scientific data says. And if the data says we can open back up, we will open back up. But if the data says it's too soon, then it's nothing that I, as mayor in good conscience, can be in a rush to do. I think where we can expend our energy is to look at ways that we can alleviate some of the hardships for our communities. We've done it through small business loan funds. We aren't disconnecting water service in the city. We are standing up a loan fund specifically for beauties and barbershops. And so I think that we need to continue to be thoughtful in providing ways for people to feel comfortable staying at home. But I think to rush to open back up our state could cost us lives.
And lastly, the Kaiser Family Foundation founded a study released last week. The Georgia ranks low as far as the number of citizens who've been tested. Do you think that increasing the number of people tested is part of the key to reopening?
It absolutely is key, because in this state, as I sit here now, we still are not testing people who are asymptomatic or people even with mild symptoms. And so until we can broadly test everyone who I believe has been in contact with someone who is tested positive or has reason to believe that they have been exposed, I think that we will all be at risk. And again, I can't supersede the governor's order. The governor is the governor, and I respect his position and have enjoyed a close working relationship with him. But I certainly cannot in good conscience say that I agree with his order, and I will continue to use my voice as mayor of Atlanta to ask people to continue to stay home, follow the science, and exercise common sense.
Mayor, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We appreciate your time. And let's turn now to Washington, where that debate on when and how to reopen the country continues to rage as small businesses are waiting on Congress to pass much-needed funds to help keep them alive. Terry Moran joins us now live. And Terry, I want to get your response to this debate playing out in Georgia and other states that are moving ahead with reopening. How is the White House responding to these efforts, and what do they see as the federal government's role as states start to make these decisions?
It's fascinating to watch this, Lindsay, because it's an experiment with this virus playing out in real time. The federal government under President Trump sees its role primarily as cheerleading the country back into action, back into economic action, and through its coronavirus task force, coordinating that response, offering very general guidelines on how to do it, while the president uses his bully pulpit to cheerlead, to push. Let's do this. One of the things that struck a lot of people about those guidelines that the White House released is really how vague they were. There weren't specific benchmarks for when the infection rate reaches this level, you can open to this degree. And when testing reaches this level, then you can move to the next step. That's essentially what Germany is doing, but they have a much more robust testing program for their population. So what you're seeing is different governors responding to different constituencies, taking different looks at the data. Everybody's following the data, but this is a brand new virus in the world. It is very confusing. There are indications that far more people have been infected than we originally knew about. And so we're going to see in real time different approaches to how to come out from our lockdowns and try to restart a society before most of us, have any immunity at all to this virus.
And Terry, let's talk about some of the protests that we've seen in a few states. Just how meaningful are these protests? I mean, do they represent a real groundswell, or is this just another way in which this pandemic has become politicized?
That's absolutely true, Lindsay. You called it the battle over reopening, and we are seeing it as a political battle as well as a debate on how to do it. I don't think that these protests, based on what we're seeing in the polls, are representative. In fact, substantial majorities of Americans still have confidence that we should go more slowly, as most public health experts are saying. But there's no question that the protests represent a genuine feeling among people. The economic and social devastation of the lockdown in our country and countries around the world is something that has a lot of people concerned about. The debate that the protesters are driving is one that every governor wants to hear, that every mayor, as you just spoke to the mayor of Atlanta, wants to hear, and that every citizen and every home is having. When can we do this? What's safe about this? This is a deadly virus for some, but it may be for many not. How do you handle something that's only been in existence in the human population for a few months? It's a very challenging problem. Lindsay?
Yeah, very complicated questions there. Terry Moran, thank you so much. And as the divide about whether or not to keep most businesses shut down plays out, the fight against COVID-19 is being waged now in new battlegrounds. The Boston Marathon should have taken place today, but instead that city is trying to beat back a surge in cases. Our David Wright reports.
Today is Patriots' Day, the state holiday in Massachusetts when they run the Boston Marathon. Not this year.
It'd be a petri dish out here if it had the marathon today with all the people.
Early this morning at the starting line in Hopkinton, no crowds at all.
It's a lot different, a little Twilight Zone-ish.
Our affiliate, WCVB, spotted just one runner being dropped off by his family. He quickly disappeared into the darkness.
It's not a great accomplishment. You're not going to be celebrated for it. No one's going to be clapping for you.
Because of COVID-19, city officials convinced the Boston Athletic Association to postpone this year's marathon till September. A significant change for an event held every Patriots' Day since 1897. Even 2 world wars and a bombing didn't stop it. But this year, Boston Strong has a different meaning. Here's the mayor's warning on Friday.
If you try to run the marathon route Monday, you're not a champion. You're actually not helping us. You're putting people at risk.
Not only were they concerned about spreading coronavirus, the first responders who line the 26-mile route to Copley Square are needed elsewhere.
Mayor Walsh has declared a public health emergency in the city of Boston. Stay home as much as you can.
Today, they're busy with the crowds from a very different marathon.
We are still seeing COVID all day, every day. it feels like we're in it. We're just inundated with COVID. I hesitate to use the word surge because I feel like, at least for me, that word is a little bit anxiety inducing. But we're definitely in the thick of it. Every day we fill up the hospital. Every day we transfer people out. Every day we fill up the hospital. Every day we transfer people out. People just keep coming in, and people keep coming in sick enough to need admission. So I don't know when it's going to end. It's still a little bit overwhelming.
More than 38,000 infected and over 1,700 dead, including at least 50 veterans at the Soldiers' Home in Holyoke. In Massachusetts, like so many states, retirement homes have been hit hard. And Massachusetts is now believed to be reaching its peak. The catastrophe left Massachusetts Governor Charlie Baker at a loss for words.
My best friend lost his mom to COVID, and when you talk about where the numbers are going on this, what I'm really thinking about is all those people who aren't going to have a chance to say goodbye.
Among the many who've stepped up to help, the highest-ranking officer in the U.S. Army, General James McConville, a Quincy native, returning home to a different sort of battlefield.
We are in a war against an invisible enemy. We remain Army strong, Massachusetts strong, and Boston strong. It's a great state. It will prevail against this virus, and we will defeat this virus.
Patriots' Day is all about the Commonwealth defending its own. Today, it's the embattled Boston Police Department losing officers in the line of duty to an invisible invader. And healthcare workers, they're on the front lines. For almost everyone else, marathons can wait. Today, that lone runner did cross the finish line at the Boston Public Library.
There was nobody on the race at all. And it was a beautiful day for it.
For all the wrong reasons, he had the course all to himself. David Wright, ABC News, New York.
Our thanks to David for that. And joining us now to talk about the city's response to the crisis is Boston Mayor Marty Walsh. Mayor Walsh, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me tonight.
Now, yesterday, the White House Task Force on Coronavirus said that they are, quote, very much focused on Boston. What does the response look like from your office and around the city right now?
Well, if they're focused on Boston, I want them to hear this. We need tests. We need support. We need equipment. We need to make sure that we continue to stay ahead of this virus. Right now, we're at about 5,749 cases in the city of Boston. 187 people have lost their life. We're in the I guess in the middle of the surge, if you will. I think the person who spoke, I couldn't see if she was a nurse or not. I want to thank the first responders and the frontline workers for their great support. This is every day a new battle here. We wake up and we go at it again, trying to keep these numbers down. That's what we try to do. So federal government support is welcome if they want to send it to Boston or Massachusetts.
Because you feel that it's still lacking. I mean, every day, pretty much at the press conferences recently, we've heard from the White House saying that there are enough tests. Are you saying that that's not true in Boston?
We certainly don't have enough tests in Boston. I know we don't have enough tests in Massachusetts. I think we've tested 1% of the population in the country, so that's clearly not enough to get the information and the data to back up how we go back as a society back to work and restart our economy. I think not having enough information is key, and we're focused on it in the city. We're expanding testing locations in the city of Boston to our health centers. There's 9 of them that are going to be doing this within the next couple of days. Some are already up and running. Our hospitals are doing it, which is great. But we really have to get mass testing as we think about going back. I heard Mayor Bottoms talking a few minutes ago about Atlanta being opened up or being opened by the governor. We really need data. Mayors need data to look at it to see if it's safe for people to go back to work. Of course, everyone wants to go back to work, but it's making sure that it's my responsibility to keep people safe and alive at this point.
You've repeatedly told people not to run the marathon course today, even though today was, of course, scheduled to be the Boston Marathon. And earlier in a press conference, you said that people gathered together over the weekend at golf courses and also in parks. How is the city enforcing social distancing, and how important is that right now?
Yeah, the majority of people are paying attention, but when people go out and whether it's run the marathon course, one person, or show up at soccer fields or golf courses, what you're doing is not only putting yourself in danger, but you're potentially putting loved ones in danger. And you could come in contact with somebody who has the coronavirus and take that virus into your home, and this virus is proven to be a killer, and do some serious damage in your home. And really, it's about social, physical distancing. Today is Patriots Day, and I'm so proud of the city of Boston. And generally, we get together and celebrate the marathon, and I would probably be just getting home right now if it was a normal day. But we ask people today to celebrate by staying home, but by social distancing, by washing your hands, by making sure when you go out you're wearing a covering, a mask or something on your face. At 9 o'clock tonight, we're asking everyone to be home from 9 p.m. till 6 a.m. We have a recommended curfew, and the majority of the people are paying attention, but we're still seeing too many cases where people aren't following through.
Lastly, Mayor, your biggest concern?
My biggest concern is that we rushed back, and I think as far as Boston, the economy was incredible prior to the coronavirus. We were setting records. We had record low unemployment. We had record high construction projects. But my concern is that we all focused too quickly to get back. And we're in the similar situation within the next, 3 to 5 months, 3 to 6 months afterwards. Right now, it's about social isolation, physical isolation, and doing all the things we do to stop the spread of the virus.
Mayor Walsh, thank you so much for coming on the show. We appreciate it. And we want to turn now to a doctor working in Boston on the front lines in the fight against COVID-19. Dr. Daniela Lamas is a pulmonary and critical care physician at Brigham and Women's Hospital in Boston who's grappled with the daily flood of coronavirus cases in recent weeks. So over the course of 12-hour overnight shifts in the ICU, she chronicled what she saw, how patients are coping, and what she's learning about taking on this deadly enemy.
It's Thursday, April 16, at about 6:40 p.m. and I've just arrived from my 7 to 7 a.m. shift. We need to wear droplet masks whenever we're in the hospital. We fill out this little survey before we come in. Do we have a cough? Do we have a sore throat? Have we lost our sense of smell? If the answer to that is no symptoms, we get what's called a COVID day pass. So this allows us to work for the day or through the night, and we get a mask in return. The hallways are different. It strikes me every time I enter these days. It's the fact that there are no families, and it gives the hospital this sense of silence. It's also harder to talk to people when we're wearing these masks, so we smile with our eyes, we give a little wave, but it is silent, it is strange. It is like we're this masked, scrubbed army entering for one united purpose. So I'm heading up to the COVID ICU. It's called the Special Pathogens ICU, the SPICU. I'm going to be on the green team tonight. All of our teams are given colors, like the strangest kind of summer camp ever. And we'll see what comes. It's 4 a.m., 9 hours into my shift. And it started as a hard one, actually. We came in to a new sick admission, been transferred from another hospital. A man with COVID, respiratory failure, GI bleeding, called his family, and they were just devastated to hear that he might not make it through. Of course, they couldn't come. They asked. We told them. And over the course of the night, he's actually gotten a little better. So that's been hopeful, surprising. It's a night of sort of back and forth. Someone does well, someone does poorly, and the thing that really ties them all together is that they all have respiratory failure from this terrible, terrible virus. 1 hour left of my shift. A few observations. Patients are getting better. Already we've learned more. We've learned about the benefits of proning, of flipping people from their backs to their chests to significantly raise oxygen levels. We've learned about how to best manage volume status. We've learned about when to wake people up to extubate them. And I think we've learned in a real way to do all of these things in spite of our fear. And that fear is real and it is present, but I think we're learning to live with it. It's kind of hard to keep track of the day for everybody these days, but particularly when you're on nights and then days. Anyway, it's Saturday, I guess, at about 3 in the morning. We got this new patient who tonight who is very sick. He's septic, in shock, and really profound shock, needing a great deal of support with medications to raise his blood pressure, and on the ventilator. And his family can't come see him. And so instead I offer them the opportunity to speak with him by iPad. And we have iPads in the ICU for this purpose. Put it into a biohazard bag, brought it into his room. And I warned them that he would look different. He'd be asleep with the sedating and pain-killing meds that ran through him. He would have a breathing tube. in his mouth down his throat. They were ready, and so I took the phone on FaceTime, and I was wearing all my protective garb, and then turned it around to him. And one by one, each of these family members said things that they wanted to him. While I stood there, I said, just, pretend I'm not here. And they seemed to be able to do so as they reached out to their loved one, their dad, and gave him verbally what they couldn't give him in person, which was saying, I love you, which was making little in-jokes that they had. Just expressions of love. And I just stood there in my protective equipment with a mask on and obviously my N95 with a visor, with a gown, holding this iPad, just being there and listening while they gave this man, who I will never likely really meet, these wishes. He sounds like a great guy, Heading out, finally heading home. It's 9 a.m. on Saturday, April 18, after a long shift. And the shift was a little longer because I allowed myself to take some time to do an unexpected visit this morning, which I'll tell you about. But, first, it's always hard to leave the ICU and know that you won't be back. I won't be back for a couple of days, and leave these people who I have never even met as people who can talk, but who I've gotten to know over the past few days and who I've come to care about. And so at the end of this shift, I went and visited my first patient with COVID, who had been sick for weeks on the ventilator, finally got off about a week ago. And I wasn't sure what she would be like after weeks of sedation and paralysis and proning, laying on her belly. She's weak for sure, but you know what? She is all there. Like, she just chewed my ear off, and she's a funny, interesting person. And she thanked me, which I knew she would, which did feel good, even though it wasn't just me, right? I was one of a huge team of people who took care of her over those weeks. But it reminded me that ICU care and ICU success is measured in these tiny, tiny increments. We moved step by step by tiny step. And ideally, we will get novel therapies for coronavirus. We will find a magic bullet, but until then, it is meticulous, careful ICU care that will get people better. And as I head home to wash the ICU shifts, the COVID off of me, I will remember that and bring it with me.
And we will remember your service. Our thanks so much to Dr. Daniela Lamas for that powerful account and all the hard work that she and others are doing. When we come back, as we've been reporting, meat processing plants are now one of the hot spots for COVID-19, with hundreds of workers testing positive and multiple plants shutting down. It begs the question, when will that impact what you buy at the grocery store? Plus, as the demand for testing skyrockets, the U.S. is turning to South Korea for help. We visit one plant that says it could pump out 20 million tests by the end of the month, and the new alarming side effect of this deadly disease. But first, our myth bust of the day. Can zinc and tonic water help treat COVID-19?
Stories of our time, anytime. Nightline.
Right now, how do you make sense of it all? Now, afternoons on ABC, one place with the good information you need.
We are all in this together, and we're going to get through this together.
Pandemic, what you need to know. Afternoons at 1 Eastern, 12 Central and Pacific on ABC.
Thank you to the doctors, nurses, healthcare professionals,
and first responders.
Thank you to everyone keeping our supermarkets, pharmacies, gas stations running.
Thank you to all the essential workers for all that you do.
Thank you.
We thank you.
We thank you. We thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
For all you do.
And with every challenge, question, concern, we'll be here for you every day.
Every day.
Every day.
Because we will
get through this together.
Next tonight, the growing evidence that COVID-19 doesn't just attack the lungs. Broadway actor Nick Cordero, a father and husband, had his right leg amputated over the weekend, more than 2 weeks after he was hospitalized. As Steve Osunsami reports, doctors are reporting more and more cases of dangerous blood clots tied to the coronavirus.
Doctors trying to save the lives of patients fighting the coronavirus are seeing more of what happened to Broadway actor Nick Cordero, a blood clot that in his case cost the Tony nominee his right leg. On Saturday, they had to amputate, and he's still in the ICU tonight. His wife explains that it was a complication from COVID-19.
He is struggling. Just every minute counts right now.
Scientists have known from the start that the deadly virus targets the respiratory system, but in outbreaks around the world, they're also seeing a high number of patients with blood clots. Blood clots that reach the heart are the most concerning. These are lung and heart scans of a patient in his 30s from New Orleans who was fighting COVID-19. And this area here is the large blood clot that was threatening to stop his heart.
If we had waited to get the scan or we hadn't gotten it at all, we would not have diagnosed the pulmonary embolism, and we may not have started the blood thinning therapy.
We're also learning that the virus itself can do damage to the muscle layers of the heart.
Our thanks to Steve Osunsami, and plenty more news to get to here on ABC News Prime. Horrific news out of Canada. 18 people killed in the deadliest mass shooting in that country's history. Plus, something that's never happened in history happened today to the price of oil. We'll sort through the numbers to tell you what it all means. But first, our tweet of the day. The people at the Boston Marathon paying tribute to all the frontline workers out there. Stay with us.
In times like these, the news-making events happen here. ABC News.
President Trump meeting face-to-face with one of the world's most brutal dictators, Kim Jong-un.
The president.
You trust him?
I do trust him, yeah. I think he trusts me, and I trust him.
Ivanka Trump.
I have to ask you about your emails. Your father had taken Hillary Clinton to task for this.
There just is no equivalency.
So the idea of lock her up doesn't apply to you?
No.
Comey.
How strange is it for you to sit here and compare the president to a mob boss?
Very strange.
Michelle Obama.
What do you wish you could tell your pre-White House self?
Melania Trump.
Do you think there's still people there that he can't trust?
Yes.
Still working now?
Yes.
Michael Cohen.
So he's still lying?
Yes.
It's a big statement.
And now, in a year with so much on the line, we're right there.
Good evening tonight from Washington, a very busy news night.
America's #1 news source, ABC News, straightforward.
We all need someone who'll pull no punches and give it to us straight. No bull, no spin. Now, imagine getting your news like that. Just give it to me straight. ABC News, straightforward.
Can you tell us your full name for the record?
Jeffrey Edward Epstein.
Every girl that meets Jeffrey starts off with giving him a massage. He's like, I'll pay you $200 for every girl that you bring to me.
Who else was underage?
All of them.
All of them?
He told me the younger the better.
How did he get so rich? How did he get away with it for so long? And what do the women who survived his crimes now have to say? Truth and Lies, Jeffrey Epstein. Listen free now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
What's the most innovative daily news podcast out there to listen to every day? Well, the Edward R. Murrow Awards say it's Start Here, the daily news podcast from ABC News. Even the New York Times calls us a top news podcast worth listening to. Start Here, free on Apple Podcasts.
Welcome back. With much of the world on lockdown, the price of oil is plummeting as demand dries up. Today, a stunning first in history. A key U.S. oil benchmark crashed below zero, meaning some sellers are now actually willing to pay to get rid of crude oil because of oversupply. Here's a look at oil and gas prices by the numbers. Minus $37.63 is the cost of a barrel of crude oil delivered in May based on the West Texas Intermediate Crude Oil Benchmark. This means that as storage space runs out, some sellers are actually willing to pay to offload crude oil. Crude oil slated for June delivery also fell, but remained in positive territory. $20.43 a barrel, according to one benchmark. $1.77 a gallon is the national average for gas at the pump, down 38% from a year ago, according to Gas Buddy. Gas prices vary widely, but in 3 cities, gas has actually dropped below $1 on average. Gas prices nationwide are on track to drop to about $1.50 in the coming weeks, according to analysts. And still a lot to get into. Frightening storms sweeping through the south the moment a tornado touched down in central Florida. Plus, a wild goose, well, make that pig chase behind the hunt for a very elusive pig by Connecticut police. But first, here's some of the trending headlines on abcnews.com.
Right now, how do you make sense of it all?
If you're like me, searching the internet all day and going through social media, it can be terrifying, and that's why we're here.
Now streaming on ABC News Live. One place here for you with the good information you need.
How do you help your family, your kids, your friends deal with all of this?
Answering all your questions.
We are all in this together, and we're going to get through this together.
Pandemic, what you need to know. Streaming everywhere on ABC News Live at 4 p.m. and 8 p.m. Eastern.
What's the most innovative daily news podcast out there to listen to every day? Well, the Edward R. Murrow Awards say it's Start Here, the daily news podcast from ABC News. Even the New York Times calls us a top news podcast worth listening to. So if you like getting behind the biggest news stories of the day, inside all the details, the backstory, and what will happen next, then listen to Start Here, the daily news podcast from ABC News. It's like no other news podcast out there. Even the critics agree. Listen free on Apple Podcasts.
This is what being live is all about. This is ABC News Live, the 24/7 streaming news source from ABC News. Breaking news, live events, streaming nonstop. Original breakthrough storytelling from ABC News, National Geographic, ESPN, and it's all designed differently for you to stream straight to any screen whenever you want.
ABC News Live.
Streaming everywhere, right to you. ABC News Live. It's that easy to go there.
The Americans here on the ground and the Iraqis, 18,000 tons. Patatas. Ismail? David.
Over ground zero from Hurricane Michael.
You can see just home after home.
David, nice to meet you.
This was your view.
My favorite view.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
The novel coronavirus has now killed more than 40,000 Americans, and many areas like hardest-hit New York appear to be past their apex, but health officials and many state leaders say the virus could come surging back.
What we do today will determine tomorrow.
Still, across the country, frustration is boiling over for a vocal minority of people. Protests popping up in several states demanding an end to stay-at-home orders. Today, demonstrators gathering in Pennsylvania and Tennessee. This weekend, gatherings of hundreds, even thousands in Texas, California, and beyond.
We want to go back to work.
Health experts and governors agree the only way to safely reopen is to ensure there's widespread testing available.
The governors wanted to have total control over the opening of their states, but now they want to have us, the federal government, do the testing. And again, testing is local. You can't have it both ways.
Lawmakers on Capitol Hill hinting they're close to reaching a deal on a new emergency funding plan. New Jersey Senator Cory Booker telling ABC he expects it to pass Congress this week.
I'm in the trenches of these negotiations yesterday, around the clock.
The bipartisan deal would include roughly $300 billion in funding for small business loans, $75 billion for hospitals, and billions more for disaster loans and coronavirus testing. But Trump economic advisor Larry Kudlow saying he doesn't know how long this second round of aid will last.
The first one went like hotcakes, so the second one could go like hotcakes too.
British Prime Minister Boris Johnson saying he is cautious about easing lockdown restrictions, hoping to avoid a second wave. In Italy, for the first time, there is a decline in the number of new infections as the country is cautiously moving to reopen some small factories and bookstores this week. Today, Denmark opened its doors to small shops and hair salons after a month-long lockdown.
I hear the shots and I look out.
A staggering death toll from the worst mass shooting in Canada's history. A man disguised as a police officer on a rampage through Nova Scotia, killing at least 18 people, including Constable Heidi Stevenson, a 23-year veteran of the police force and mother of two.
As families grieve the loss of a loved one, all Canadians are standing with them.
Severe storms continue to roll across the south over the next couple of days. Earlier today, large tornadoes were spotted in Florida, including this twister that you see right there. This was in Seminole County. And in Sumter County, a twister tried to form near a highway. At least 4 tornadoes have been reported across the state so far tonight. Footage from the steps of City Hall in DeLand, Florida, shows the heavy wind turning the rain sideways. Emergency crews work to restore downed power lines across the region. Tens of thousands of residents between Mississippi and Alabama were still without power today after heavy wind and rain swept through this weekend, causing flash floods. And there's another severe storm threat for parts of eastern Texas through Louisiana and into Mississippi, with some supercells that could develop Wednesday evening. Turning now to a major intersection of 2 fronts of the coronavirus crisis. Meat processing plants are now major hotspots for the virus. The CDC is investigating the Smithfield Foods pork facility in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, as we're learning about more Smithfield facilities with confirmed cases in other states, threatening a major disruption to supply chains. Our Matt Gutman is in South Dakota with the latest on this story.
Tonight, these assembly lines are turning out to be some of the biggest COVID hotspots in the country. There are now outbreaks at meat plants in 7 states, including South Dakota and Iowa, which saw its largest single-day spike, most of it at meatpacking plants. But so far, the governor refusing to shut them down.
And without them, people's lives and our food supply will be impacted. We must do our part to keep them open in a safe and responsible way.
Here in Sioux Falls, where the governor has not issued stay-at-home orders, the nation's single biggest hotspot.
And within just a couple of weeks, the number of people testing positive at this plant went from a handful to over 700.
And activists fear infection could be far more widespread.
We're starting to get reports now of family members and secondary and tertiary contacted people of Smithfield employees that are testing positive. The ripple effect into the community is severe.
And with the outbreak surging in the Midwest, doctors here warning no place is immune.
There's no part of rural America, urban America that it's not going to affect. It's just part of who we are now.
Our thanks to Matt for that. And South Korea and the United States, they reported their first cases on the very same day. South Korea went all in on testing and has avoided a major surge, while the U.S. now leads the world in deaths. But now some of those test kits are making their way here from South Korea. Could this help the shortage crisis that we now face? ABC's Joo-hee Cho files this report from Seoul.
Dr. Chun Jong-yoon, a former professor in molecular biology turned businessman, was ready with a test kit in hand even before South Korea reported its first COVID-19 patient in late January.
Thinking ahead, his team of 130 scientists from both biology and computer sciences developed a test capable of detecting the novel coronavirus. The South Korean government expedited permission, and within 4 weeks, Sijin was rolling out tens of thousands of test kits as the country fought the worst days of the pandemic. The small box covered 80% of all testings done in South Korea. Thanks to aggressive, widespread testing, South Korea is flattening their curve faster than most nations. With a global shortage of tests, countries around the world are tapping into South Korea for help, including President Trump, who personally called the South Korean president for assistance last month.
Huge volume is that every day they are asking to us. Sometimes an embassy or some government or some president, they are sending to directly by the email. So many pressure is coming.
So far, Sijin tells ABC News they have exported more than 10 million kits to over 60 countries, and that their kits have provided 70% of all tests used so far in Italy, France, Germany, Spain, and Israel. Seijin says they will roll out 20 million test kits by May, with more tests soon heading to the U.S. Kits which will include the chemical reagents needed for analyzing collected samples.
The states can do the tests, but when I go back to the manufacturers, they will say, I can't find the reagents, the chemicals that are used in the test. Well, how do you get more reagents? I have to get them from China. I have to get them from this country. I have to get them from this country.
At Seijin headquarters in Seoul, PhD scientists and doctors normally at work in fancy labs are now all down on the production floor.
Demand for coronavirus test kits have skyrocketed recent weeks. So the company had brought in researchers from biology and IT department to help out with packaging. They've sent about 100,000 test kits to the U.S. last week alone.
Once these test kits arrive in the U.S., Seijin says running the actual tests for the masses is not an impossible mission.
Labs, universities, and hospitals in nearly every country are set up with mass testing, according to Seijin. The challenge is gathering everything into one location and getting it running 24/7.
The Seijin Medical Foundation shares this stage-by-stage system they set up.
This is where you start the diagnosis process.
Exactly.
Okay, can we go in?
Yes.
17 nucleic acid extracting machines, 9 sets of liquid handling machines to mix samples and reagents into a tube, and about 90 minutes in these 55 sets of PCR amplification machines. With this process, Seijin says results for about 15,000 people pop up in just 5 to 6 hours.
So we realize it. This system is working dramatically well for covering the COVID-19 disease, especially
in a pandemic situation.
In the pandemic situation, especially when you receive tons of samples. The system is perfectly excellent for massive screenings of the infectious disease.
Seijin says they want to share their process for the good of humanity, but warns that challenges still remain in this global war against COVID-19.
Like all other viruses, there is potential for the new coronavirus to mutate, meaning consistent research and guidelines for testing processes will be key to flattening the curve worldwide.
Joo Hee-cho for ABC News Live in Seoul, South Korea.
Our thanks to Joo Hee. And police body camera from Stamford, Connecticut this weekend provides a moment of levity, much needed moment of levity. That is the suspect, a pig. He was seen running from police, leading them on a 45-minute chase around a neighborhood. The officers employed a variety of tactics in order to try to distract it. When posting the video online, the police department said it's well aware of the jokes, the scenarios that come to mind here. The final standoff concluded when the pig ran at one officer, scooting right through his legs, when another officer then flanked the pig and covered him with a garbage can. A squeal, the sign of success. And when we return, what might life look like when businesses do finally open back up? A glimpse of our potential future, courtesy of Denmark.
Right now, how do you make sense of it all? Now, afternoons on ABC, one place with the good information you need.
We are all in this together, and we're going to get through this together.
Pandemic, what you need to know. Afternoons at 1 Eastern, 12 Central and Pacific on ABC. Friday nights, 9/8 Central. True crime, cinematic, real-life drama, stunning, the unthinkable. Follow the clues. The Hunt. True crime, 2020. Friday nights, 9/8 Central on ABC.
The world may feel out of your control, but your happiness doesn't have to be. Learn the secrets to happiness. Listen to the 10% Happier podcast, free on Apple Podcasts.
ABC News honored winner of 4 Edward R. Murrow Awards, including the most prestigious honor, Overall Excellence in Television. ABC News, America's #1 news choice.
This is what being live is all about. This is ABC News Live, the 24/7 streaming news source from ABC News. Breaking news, live events, streaming nonstop. Original breakthrough storytelling from ABC News, National Geographic, ESPN, and it's all designed differently for you to stream straight to any screen whenever you want.
ABC News Live.
Streaming everywhere, right to you.
ABC News Live. It's that easy to go there.
Good morning, sunshine.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, sunshine.
Good morning, sunshine. We've been waiting for you. Say good morning. Good morning, sunshine. America. Say good morning. I want you to wake me up.
ABC News, America's #1 news source. Straightforward news, straight to the heart of the story. ABC News, straightforward.
We all have to keep trusting and believing that there is a light at the end of this very long tunnel. And tonight, Denmark may be starting to come out of the other side. Our James Longman is in Copenhagen with a special edition of Feel Good News.
Hi guys, welcome to Good News. And what better place to be bringing it to you from than a country which is now coming out slowly of its lockdown. We're in Copenhagen, Denmark. It is a beautiful day. So many people are out enjoying it. A lot of businesses now have reopened, smaller shops, hairdressers, massage parlors, places where 1 or 2 people would go in rather than larger businesses. Crucially, also schools have reopened for those under 12. And we went today to meet some of the people going back to school, the kids, the teachers, to see them getting back to their normal lives. Does everyone like being back at school? Yes! Nice. We spoke to 11-year-old Liv. You'll see she's a lovely, articulate young girl, and she spoke really beautifully, I thought, about being reunited with her friends.
It's of course nice to be at home, but it's nicer to be at school because of your friends. I probably think every child right now at home missed their friends. So yeah, it's very nice to be back.
Is it hard to keep the rules of social distancing at school?
Very much. I've missed my friend and it's hard not to hug my friends. Yeah, I've just missed my friends so much.
So what's it been like reopening the school?
There has been this sense of excitement because we're teachers. We want to be around students. So when the students first came back, it was so good to see their faces because they seemed to be really, really happy. And they seemed to have it already embedded in them that they needed to keep their distance, that they needed to wash their hands. We do it in such a way that, yeah, we're constantly on duty, but we're constantly on duty with a smile to remind them that this is what we have to do in order to continue going back to school.
But there are still pretty strict social distancing guidelines in place here in Denmark, and they're trying to observe them in the school. You've seen kids lining up to wash their hands, but they still have to stand a couple of meters apart. When break time is called, they're asked to kind of gather in groups of 3 and no more than that. And a lot of the lessons that these students and the teachers learned whilst they were in lockdown are being used now they're back to school. But Denmark, hopefully, slowly now can come back to normal. I should say it's only able to do this because they instituted their lockdown so early. There were only around 600 cases and 1 death. And that is why Denmark now slowly is coming out of a long period of lockdown. We also went into some other businesses to see how they're getting on, including a hairdresser. I was tempted to get a chop myself. So you're back open?
Yes.
How does it feel?
Very good. It's been really boring at home.
How long has it been since you got your hair cut?
2 months.
2 months?
Yeah.
And how does it feel today?
Good.
You have to wear this. What other measures do you have to take when you do
We're using all this alcohol to cleaning all the stuff, cleaning the seats and everything, and cleaning around here, and towels, throw them out, and this is only used once.
So it's really lovely to see Denmark getting back to normal. Elsewhere, as ever on Good News, we're highlighting some of the people who've been fighting this virus and beating it. And check out this couple from Madison, Wisconsin, both hospitalized for the coronavirus and discharged together on the same day. We're just leaving you with our favourite moments for the last few days of people saluting our healthcare workers who are battling on the front lines every day. That's it from us in Denmark, a little glimpse maybe of what our own lives might look like in the coming weeks and months. But for now, stay safe and be good to each other.
So refreshing to see their faces in Denmark without masks. Perhaps we will get there sometime soon. But before we go tonight, while we've seen some protests in this country, check out protesters in Israel taking to the streets of Tel Aviv, trying to keep proper social distancing. More than 2,000 people took part in the demonstration against Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu as he plans to form an emergency government with his chief rival while facing corruption charges. That is our image of the day. And that is our show for this hour. Be sure to stay tuned to ABC News Live for more context and analysis of the day's top stories. I'm Lindsay Davis. Thank you so much for streaming with us, and have a good night.